All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Tuesday, the 7th. The 7th already, guys. The year is flying in. Is it too early to say that? Happy New Year, guys. I don't think I've spoken to either of you on the channel this year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Hamish.
Cheers. Where's the cut-off for saying Happy New Year? How do you guys feel about that?
About a week ago for me, Hamish, but I don't know about Kevin.
Yeah, 3 days.
3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good cut off for me.
What have you been up to then? I guess it was a kind of tricky start to the year, Kevin, for Celtic, but yeah, we got a 3-0 win of our own to follow the 3-0 loss, and we're looking forward now to a positive 2025.
Well, given what we were looking at a month or so ago, the glut of fixtures, cup final, 2 games a week, visit to Ibrox, visit to Tannadice, against a very good Dundee United team. We were 11 points clear. It seems mad. We were 11 points clear then, and we're now 13 points clear, effectively 14, given that we've got like a 30 or so goals advantage over Rangers. So we'd all have taken that. It's just that it's not so much the defeat in the Old Firm in the Glasgow Derby game. It was just the manner of it. You can't keep winning games against Rangers just ad infinitum. It just doesn't happen, no matter, or them against us, no matter how bad we are at any given time or they are. It's just when it came, we were so abject in every single area, apart from maybe Cameron, that there's still a bit of a hangover. I'm still kind of suffering a bit of a hangover from that game, despite their lost 2 points. And I just can't wait until we get them back at Parkhead.
Yeah, I feel the same way. In the meantime, John, we got on with things. 3-0 win over St Mirren at the weekend. What was the verdict on that one?
Yeah, it was, like everyone will have noted, it was pretty slow in that first half an hour, which caused comments after the game. But I thought Celtic were much improved in the second half, and when Kuhn got his goal, that gave us a spark as well. I was pretty pleased with the performance. It was a pretty routine win. It's probably what you want at home in the depths of winter. Routine win, no drama, no sniff of St Mirren really getting into the game at all, really. So I was happy to pick up those 3 points, and I think it'll be a little bit tougher against Dundee United in terms of, like, they're pretty organised this season under Jim Goodwin, and they're going to come to Celtic Park. We saw it even at Tannadice, but especially at Celtic Park, they're going to come and have everybody and every limb behind the ball to try and frustrate Celtic. I think they've been quite open about that already, so that's something to contend with, and we'll see if the team have the creativity to unlock Dundee United tomorrow.
I was looking at the fixture list in this period. I think we played Dundee United twice, and we've got Dundee in quick succession as well. It's like half our life spent playing teams for Dundee. Okay, everyone, let us know how you're feeling about Celtic today. Things are pretty good, but there's been a lot of chat over the past 48 hours or so. I don't intend to spend the whole video chatting about it, because me and Tony spoke in depth about Brendan Rodgers' comments. I think what is interesting to ponder is how will his press conference go today? Because he's going to be pushed on these things. Will he? We got a comment in already saying, will he? Do you think he'll? Now he's had time to think. Will he double down on his comments or briefly address it and move on? I hope it's the latter. I think it will be the latter. Maybe Neil Lennon during COVID times would be slightly different, but Rodgers is quite clever with these things.
I think you and Tony, obviously, you covered it well yesterday. So I think regardless of whether what he said was right or wrong or whatever, my kind of question was, well, why did he do it? Like, I think Rodgers' diplomacy since he came back to the club has been quietly effective in terms of unifying the support with him and like the project that he's on. So it was interesting for me that diplomacy kind of went out the window. I think it will come back later today. I can't see him, pursuing this. For me, it wasn't really about what he said. It was just about kind of why is he saying this now? And it kind of just, he's talked a lot about unification between the support and the team and the coaching staff. And for me, that was just, it was, it was perhaps unnecessary. He might feel it was necessary, but from my perspective, it just felt like an unnecessary reaction to grumbling at Celtic Park, which we've all known has existed for quite a while now. It does happen. So I was surprised by his comments, and I don't think he'll be going full in two-footed in his press conference later today.
Any thoughts, Kevin?
I thought he was very, very unwise to say what he said. I thought the timing was awful. If we'd beaten Rangers, he could say what he liked, quite frankly. But as I'd said before, we were hammered by Rangers, and we were just rubbish all over the park. I would never accuse Celtic players of not trying, but they chucked it. It's like they accepted their fate. It was a cowardly performance. You mentioned Neil Lennon a couple of minutes ago. My God, what we could have done with in the middle of the park would have included Neil Lennon or Scott Brown. I'm not saying that their presence would have turned defeat into victory, but the supporters would have got the impression that they weren't accepting it, and I just thought Celtic accepted their fate long before the end of the game. Rodgers' comments were unnecessary, unwise, injudicious, arrogant even. He doesn't seem to have twigged how badly the supporters felt about that display at Ibrox. I sympathise with Greg Taylor. It's not nice. I first of all, I don't think those chants, which I don't think were that loud or voluble anyway, in favour of Kieran Tierney. I don't think they were directed at Greg Taylor.
No.
You could say at the very most they were a bit thoughtless, because there's a player out there giving his all who he knows as well as we do that, not that he's been targeted, but he's been mentioned, and the reason why he's been mentioned is because on a few occasions his misplaced passes have led to goals for the opposition in high-profile games. That's the rough and tumble of professional football at the top level. As for that nonsense about calling out the fans for grumbling a wee bit when the ball goes backwards or side to side, well, damn right. You're playing against a team like St Mirren, Motherwell, Dundee United, who are going to be set up to defend. Everybody knows how they're going to be set up. We know it. The players know it. Brendan Rodgers knows it. He's had a whole week, 2 weeks to devise a strategy. He's in a privileged position, but he knows exactly how the opposition's playing. And you take examples in other leagues down south where you've got, I know it's more competitive in England, but the really good teams who play against teams who are set up to stop them playing, they devise ways of turning the ball and making sure it goes forward. I know that it's unavoidable. You have to play some passes back side to side, but we saw it at Ibrox and for a little bit at the cup final. I just thought there was a fear in possession when some of our key skillful midfielders get the ball with their back to goal. They will not play the slightly risky pass forward, so they'll just play it back. And Rangers, I think, have sensed that fear of our midfielders taking the ball and turning. It's what we used to love about Hatate. That's what marked him out as a special player. His ability, that little kind of half turn take the ball, half turn with it, and the pitch opens up for him. He stopped that. And the reason why he stopped that is that he's not confident anymore in his ability to do that. So the supporters, my God, I mean, a manager complaining about supporters grumbling. They weren't chanting for your head, Brendan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That happens at other stadiums. If grumbling's as bad as it gets, Brendan, you need to give yourself a shake.
It's something that's, as I say, I don't want to go massively into it, but it's something that's been on his mind for a while, clearly, because he had the Club Brugge example of Diza Maida kind of ready to go, and also after the Tannadice game, he made comments, and he's had wee kind of wee quirks, wee remarks at press conferences over the past year. And I think a lot of them have been aimed at the media, and we lap it up and all that kind of stuff. I guess when it's against the support, it's slightly different. As you say, John, the thing that's interesting is why has he done it now? Now, it might just be that he was incredibly worked up by Sunday, and the cynic in me would say it was more Thursday that had worked him up than Sunday. I don't think we'd have got that. We wouldn't have got that reaction if Thursday had gone well. But, also he's also done it for a reason. I mean, he's not just ranting for the sake of it. So, I mean, does this light a fire under the players for the weeks and months to come?
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of that he's maybe trying to shield the players to some extent. But I feel like, no, this criticism about Celtic being too safe in possession, I don't think it's something that Brendan Rodgers hasn't said in the past before. I mean, he directly took Austin Trusty off in the cup final against Rangers because he said that Celtic weren't getting the ball forward quick enough. And so he recognises that it can be an issue for this team, that they go into themselves a little bit, go into their shell, and passing. Nobody likes to see the ball being passed back and the safe possession between the centre backs to the full backs back again. It is frustrating, but that the reality is as well, from his perspective, he sees it as a way of like maybe wearing the teams down. They're having to chase the ball a lot, and we've seen that quite often in terms of Celtic improving in the second half when these teams are kind of throttled into submission almost. So Rodgers sees it from that perspective. So it's one of those things, fans, I feel like fans grumbling at matches is something that's just, baked into the match day experience. It just happens. And that's why I found the reaction odd to it, because it's not like this is a new thing. It's not like it was more intense than usual. It was just what happens. And so Rodgers has taken it as, and I do agree, I think it was because there was an intense reaction to last Thursday, but I think there's always going to be an intense reaction to those derbies. As Kevin says, you're not going to beat Rangers every single time, but the manner of the defeat was pretty shocking, and the performance was poor, and the way the game panned out tactically was reminiscent of the cup final, which Celtic did win, but also for periods of that game, Rangers had the upper hand in it. So it's multifaceted, isn't it? But I just think the reaction was ill-advised, and probably, we can kind of move on from it. Hopefully it doesn't just drag on, and Rodgers is back in the media today and kind of pushing it forward again. But I think, the manager's had his say. He's entitled to his opinion ultimately. I just think from if you're thinking about it diplomatically in terms of Rodgers' relationship with the support, I don't think it's what was needed. But we'll see how it pans out now.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned yesterday that he'd spoken after the Astana game very early on in his first spell at the club, and I looked up the quotes for that just briefly because I think they're quite different. He's saying the same thing, but in a kind of much more productive way, I guess. This is from August 2016. He said, "The fans were unbelievable for us, but I think they need to show a little bit of patience as well. I'm a Celtic supporter. I know what they want. I know how desperate they want it. But instead of having that edginess, trust the players and how we work, and eventually we can get there." I think a similar message to that on Sunday would have had a much better reaction, rather than if you know about football and I don't need the cheers when it's 3-0, etc. See, Kevin, I'm just winding Kevin up today. What about the press conference today, Kevin? Do you think he'll want to move on from things?
I'm not. I'm not entirely sure. I think Brendan sometimes exists in a wee bubble with nobody else. There's a big difference between his second spell and his first spell, and that's in the authority that he has at the football club. Whether or not, or to what extent you believe that there was a kind of tension behind the scenes between him and Peter Lawwell, and a kind of battle for ultimate supremacy, Brendan Rodgers appears to have won it. There are questions. I know we're 13 points ahead. We won the League Cup. There's only we could only throw away the treble, but there are still questions to be asked about the outlay, amounting to nearly 20 million quid for Trusty, Engels, and Ida, and given that none of them did they all start? No. Well, one of them gets substituted at half-time in the cup final. Ida doesn't start.
None of them started at Ibrox.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's, and you wonder if behind the scenes there are people asking questions, especially when I had a chat with a Rangers supporter the other night. Yeah, I know this might be anathema to some Celtic fans, but I've been very impressed with that wee left back of theirs, Yilmaz, who cost a fraction of any of those players. Igamain, whoever's doing the scouting did a damn good job at that. So I just wonder, when you're asking, you were asking Hamish, you were asking John there about what, why he decided to say that, and why did he decide to use those words, and that old nonsense that I hate from professional football people, that, the inference that we don't know the game or they know the game better because it's been, that's all right. That's all very good, They want us to turn up, pay our money, which we've done for years, but hey, we don't really know the game. But as long as you give us our money, I think he's. I don't know if he'll retreat from it because I've kind of detected a higher level than usual of arrogance by Brendan this season in some of his comments, and I think that stems from the fact that he thinks he rules the roost and he's untouchable inside Celtic Park. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll find out later on. England Ayrshire reckons that he will apologise. I'd be surprised.
I don't think he'll
apologise. No, Brendan doesn't do apologies.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I see Jozo Simunovic has got a new club. Waza boys telling us about that. I'm assuming you're reliable here, Waza.
No, this is true. Ryan was in Zagreb for the Champions League game, and I spoke to Jozo Simunovic, and he is doing coaching there. So that's good for him because obviously he had his career cut short through injuries. Really, he didn't really do anything after Celtic. He struggled to find a club, and then did find a club, but then couldn't play. So he's back, and he's building his coaching career now. So fair play to him.
Yeah. Transfer wise, John, is there anything happening?
There's nothing too much new. There's most of the chat is that Stephen Welsh is heading out on loan or some sort of deal in Belgium. There's a few teams chasing after Luis Palma, but I think Celtic have an asking price. Nobody's met it yet. And then there's also the element of James Forrest is injured just now, so they're not wanting to ship out another winger while he's still on the sidelines. So that'll develop. And I think everyone's well aware that Celtic are looking for another winger this month, and that Kieran Tierney is also on the radar. So I think that left side will be getting strengthened somewhat, and then whatever Rodgers wants to do in on top of that, then we'll find out. There is chat. There's maybe another attacker that we didn't get in the summer window. I think the midfield's pretty well stocked. Depends what happens, what you do with Rio Hatate, etc. long term. But I think the left side seems to be the priority.
Okay. I guess the fact that we can't register any new players for the final two Champions League games takes a little bit of the pressure off in terms of you don't need to get them in for that because you can't register them. Obviously, I'd love us to sign players, but you know how the club will be thinking. They won't be rushing into anything given that the squad is relatively strong. Apparently, one team we've rejected 2 offers for Palma, one from France, one from Germany as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Dundee United tomorrow night. We've got another game at Celtic Park as well, Kevin. It's a hell of a run of home games we've had. I think we've had 4 home games in a couple of weeks. Played them recently as well. Dundee United, they were pretty defensive, it's fair to say. We didn't play well enough that day, though, to win the game. But hopefully at Celtic Park, we'll see a bit of an improvement.
I'll be happy even with a single goal victory. They're very, very well organised. I had actually quite an interesting conversation with a Dundee United supporter, and I was saying to him, you know, some of these, clubs like Dundee United, on one hand, they talk about playing the likes of Celtic and saying it's a free hit. You know, it's a free hit. They don't expect anything, so they can sort of relax. But then on the other hand, they pile everyone behind the ball. But if it's a free hit for them, why are they not a bit more adventurous? Try a few things out, you know. And my friend put me right, and he said, yeah, that's all very well, but no team likes to be scudded 5-6-7-0 because that can, although it's 3 points like any other game, it saps the confidence of your players, and it can lead you into a tailspin. And I had a bit of sympathy for that. You know, if you look at what Aberdeen have done since we beat them 6-0 in the League Cup semi-final. I can remember a game several years ago when Ian McCall, who was doing well with Dundee United, went to Hampden in a semi-final and getting beat 7-1 by Rangers, and he was out the door a few months later. So I get that. So Dundee United will turn up. They'll be very well organised. They'll be tough to play again. They'll have taken a lot of encouragement from holding us and actually reduced, not really giving us all that many chances. It's a game where we need Kyogo to be a bit more dynamic. But I wonder if he'll play Ida just to change it up a wee bit, because Dundee United will expect Kyogo, and I want to see Big Ida get a couple of goals for his confidence. I know that his goals per minutes ratio is not, it's not too bad, but when he starts games, he doesn't really score, and I just wonder if this is the right time. It's the sort of game you put him in. Dundee United, won't be set up to expect that. 1-0 will do me fine. They're a good team. Jim Goodwin has worked wonders with them.
Yeah, he has. I mean, they're well organised, and we'll need to be better, as I say, John, than we were in the Tannadice game. Yeah,
I was just looking up comments there from Declan Gallagher because he was speaking ahead of the game. This is from the Courier. He says, I've been on the end of a few gubbins at Celtic Park, but I've had a 2-2 draw with St Mirren and a 0-0 draw with Livingston, so it's not impossible to go there and get a good result. We know how good Celtic are and the abundance of talent they have, but we'll take confidence from the 0-0 draw here at Tannadice, and if we keep our defensive record going, then frustrate the life out of them. Hopefully we can nick something. So it's pretty, it's not rocket science to, like Kevin's laid out there. They're taking encouragement from the 0-0. They're going to come, sit in defensively and try to frustrate the life out of Celtic, as Declan Gallagher says there. And we've seen that, Jim Goodwin's not afraid to do that against Celtic. I think it could be another one of those ones where the first half hour is pretty tight again, and there is going to have to be an element of patience there from the team more than anyone. It's them who, the supporters can't go on the field and kick the ball in the goal. So, the patience has to come from the players, and the players can't get frustrated or inside their own heads too much, or start just dropping into those safe passages of play. We need the Celtic players to be playing forward aggressive, and combative, against United physically as well. And that can spark, you into life and open up spaces and little combinations that we love to see. And that, to be fair to Celtic, have shown often this season, and especially in the early stages of the season, we know they can do it. And I think one of Rodgers' points as well was just like, there has to be an element of the trust that the team are looking to attack, and obviously we don't want them to get into themselves, but they also have to figure out how to play through Dundee United, and I think that could take a bit of time again tomorrow. The first 20 minutes might not be a goal fest.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Chilpel saying that will be tricky. Maybe fans will have to be patient. It'll be interesting to hear if there is any sort of difference in the support. I've spoken to a few people at the game, and they were saying that it wasn't actually pretty noticeable on Sunday. So it's maybe become more of a talking point that it should have been. Ian reckons he did nothing the other day to merit another start. Wazza boy, no complacency tomorrow night. Won't be an easy fixture. They will park the bus. Yeah, they're having a good season, Dundee United. I know I think they lost to Hearts, didn't they, the other day? But before then, some really good results. I think they've obviously held us. They've held Rangers at Ibrox. They were unlucky at Tannadice against Rangers. Pretty low-scoring games. It's about getting an early goal for me, and that's something we were doing at the start of the season, and we've kind of struggled recently with doing that. An early goal really opens up the game for us, so I'd like to see us really do that. Obviously, the team are trying to get that early goal. It's just not happened for whatever reason. I don't think our passing's quite been at it. But when we tend to get one goal, we don't stop there. There's been a real theme of our home games recently that it's maybe taken a half an hour, 35 minutes to get that opening goal. But when we do get it, it quite often ends 3 or 4-0. So we're feeling good. Chance to go 16 clear as well. Kevin, I think my maths is right. Rangers play on Thursday night.
Yeah. I don't think there's been... Well, I'm certain there hasn't been any previous occasion where a team that is 13 points ahead with more than half the season gone doesn't end up winning the league. But for Celtic, it's maintaining a level of performance with the 2 final Champions League games coming up, and also maintaining that level of performance and competitiveness within the team, with the possibility of getting into the last 16 outright in the Champions League. This is now crucial for us. So yeah, in their minds, they're entitled to think, the league's won, but the performance levels just can't drop because of these European fixtures. Our big challenge for us between now and the rest of the season is resurrecting as far as possible our lost reputation in Europe, which has, a beneficial knock-on effect when it comes to purchasing players. Widens our options, makes us a bit more attractive. It's all about the profile of the club.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with Kevin. I mean, I've been saying over the last couple of videos, and I mean, I don't like to talk about a game weeks in advance, but I do think that it is a serious point that we do have to build towards this young boys game, because it's just such a massive game in the context of an entire season.
Biggest of the season, isn't it?
Yeah. It makes the season if we get into the knockout rounds of the Champions League. That's just... that is what it is. And I think a lot of the excitement around Celtic and maybe the early stage of the seasons was, coming off the back of those European performances, obviously Dortmund aside. But I think that did generate, a momentum for Celtic, both the support and the support's perception of the team. And that, that feeds into the players as well. They're feeling good about themselves. They've got a swagger in these, so-called run-of-the-mill domestic games that perhaps, now that we're not really playing those European matches and it's just week-to-week domestic, the players have to find the motivation within themselves and stay true to the messages that they put out into the media. They're always talking about it's just about the next game and it's just about our processes day-to-day. But naturally, I think, there's no denying that a midweek game against Dundee United is not quite the same as the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? So that is something for the players, but they get paid the money to do this. It's not that I've got sympathy for them in terms of getting up for these matches, but it's just that it's natural that these domestic games might be a little bit more routine, and that's maybe what we're seeing reflected in some of the performances. But Kevin's right. you need to focus on these European games coming up. It's so huge for the club, and they need to be in the right place mentally and physically for those tests against Young Boys and Aston Villa.
Yeah, it's a good point. I hadn't actually really considered it. Maybe subconsciously I had, but it has been a bit of a different period. Right from the start of the season, pretty much, we had these European games to look forward to. And then you go through whatever it is, 6, 7, 8 week period of no European games. It maybe has felt a bit different for the fans as well as the players. But, Dundee United tomorrow, always a good game against Dundee United. They're going well. We're third best team in the country at the moment. So it's a test for us. I think we'll be just fine. We'll be back tomorrow on the day of the game to look ahead to it. We'll be chatting about the press conferences today. I'm sure there'll be other stuff that comes up between now and then as well. Thank you, Kevin, for coming on. Much appreciated. We'll catch up
soon. All the best.
John, was there anything else channel-wise, website-wise to put across before we head?
Obviously, we'll have full coverage of the press conference today and everything that comes out of that. And we're keeping our neb in when it comes to transfers and trying to chase down stuff for the latest. So, yeah. Anything transfer, we're trying to stay right on top of this month specifically, of course, and yeah, full coverage of what Brendan or the players say later.
Great stuff. Thanks, everyone. Much appreciated. We'll catch up with you this time tomorrow.